Hi, my name is Olivia. I'm 33, a graphic designer working from home, and I'm married to the most hardworking, grounded man I've ever met, my husband Jake. He's 35, a construction worker who wakes up every morning at 5 a.m., puts on his steel-toed boots, and heads out to the site, rain or shine. Jake builds homes from the ground up. He comes home dusty and tired, but always with a smile. He takes pride in his work, and so do I. That's why what my sister said at dinner that night cut so deep. It was our mom's birthday, and we had a big family dinner at her place. My sister Amanda showed up 45 minutes late in a designer dress, her husband trailing behind her with his Bluetooth headset still in his ear. Amanda's always been the fancy one in the family. She works in PR for a major cosmetics brand in New York, and she never lets us forget it. Dinner started off fine. Jake was telling my dad about a foundation job he'd just finished when Amanda interrupted, wine glass in hand. "Oh my God," she laughed, cutting him off. "You're still doing that, digging and hammering or whatever. You know, if you're ever tired of the dirt, you can clean my house. I'll pay you well?" She giggled. Everyone at the table went quiet. Jake chuckled politely, but I saw the way his eyes dropped. My stomach twisted. I managed to force a smile. "Amanda, that's not funny." "Oh, come on." She waved it off. "You know I'm just joking. It's just, you could do so much better, Liv. You're so talented. I mean, he builds houses, right? How rustic." The worst part? My parents said nothing. They just kept eating. Jake didn't say a word the rest of dinner, and when we got in the car, I could see his hands gripping the steering wheel tighter than usual. "Don't let her get to you," I whispered, reaching over to hold his hand. He gave me a tight smile, but I knew better. Amanda had always looked down on our life. To her, if it wasn't luxury, it wasn't worth anything. But what she didn't know was that the world she built around designer bags and champagne was about to crack, and when it did, the man she once mocked would be the one she needed the most. The night after that dinner, Jake stayed unusually quiet. He wasn't the type to let people's opinions get under his skin, but when it came from family, it hit different. I could tell Amanda's comments stung, even if he didn't say it out loud. A week passed and things went back to normal. Jake returned to his job sites, pouring concrete in the early mornings, while I worked from my studio upstairs, designing logos and web graphics for local businesses. We had our little world, and honestly, it was peaceful, until Amanda called out of the blue. "Liv, I need a favor," she said, her tone unusually soft. I raised an eyebrow. Amanda rarely called unless she needed something or had some gossip to spill. "Sure, what's going on?" "I need Jake's help with the plumbing in our new house," she said quickly. "Wait, what? I thought you had a fancy contractor for that." She let out a sharp exhale. "We did, but he bailed, and we already moved in. Something's leaking under the kitchen island. Patrick's been on business trips all week. It's just a mess." Jake was sitting across from me, sipping coffee in his work pants. I covered the speaker and mouthed, "Do you want to?" He shrugged. "Sure, I'll help." When I told Amanda, she sounded surprised. "Really?" "Oh, well, okay. Can he come today?" That afternoon, we pulled into Amanda's pristine suburban driveway, her white SUV shining in the sun. Jake grabbed his tool bag, cool and calm as ever, and walked in like a pro. Amanda barely looked at him. "It's under here," she pointed, standing far away from the puddle on her Italian tile floor like it might splash onto her Gucci heels. Jake knelt down, inspected the pipes, and within minutes found the problem. "Your contractor used the wrong fittings," he said simply. "I'll fix it, but whoever did this had no idea what they were doing." Amanda flushed. "Oh, that's what Patrick said too. We hired the same guy Rachel from the club used. She swore by him." Jake didn't comment. He just got to work. While he worked, Amanda hovered near me, suddenly more talkative than usual. "Liv, it's been kind of a rough month. Patrick got passed over for that executive promotion, and the mortgage on this place is insane. He's stressed, I'm stressed, and honestly, I'm just tired." I nodded sympathetically. It was the first time I'd seen Amanda let her guard down in years. "And that boutique I was investing in," she added, her voice dropping. "It flopped. I lost $40,000 just like that." My eyes widened. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. I haven't told anyone, she whispered. I don't want Mom and Dad thinking we can't handle things. You know how they are. I did. They always measured success by bank accounts, not happiness. An hour later, Jake finished the repairs. He wiped his hands on a rag and stood up. You're all set. The leak's fixed, and I adjusted the line so it won't happen again. Amanda looked genuinely relieved. Thank you, really. Jake just nodded. No problem. We left, and in the car, I looked at him. Still think her jokes are funny? He smiled wryly. Life has a way of humbling people. The next few weeks were quiet until Amanda called again, this time in tears. Liv, I need help. Everything's falling apart. Amanda rarely cried. In fact, in all the years I'd known her, even as kids, I could count on one hand how many times I'd seen her shed real tears. So when she called sobbing, voice trembling, it sent a chill through me. Amanda, what's going on? I asked, already grabbing my keys. It's Patrick, she whispered. He left. I froze. What do you mean he left? He said he needs space, that he's going to figure things out and stay in a hotel for a while. He took his laptop and some clothes. He didn't even look at me. Jake glanced over from the couch, concern flickering in his eyes as he heard the panic in my voice. I'm coming over, I said, and we were out the door 10 minutes later. When we arrived, Amanda's perfect world looked off. The lights were dim, boxes of takeout sat on the counter. Her hair was unbrushed, her eyes were swollen and red. She collapsed into my arms the moment I stepped through the door. I don't know what to do, Liv. I don't know how this happened. We sat in her living room, once a picture-perfect showroom of success, and now a scene of unraveling reality. Between sobs, she admitted the truth. The boutique she'd invested in wasn't the only loss. They were drowning in credit card debt. Patrick had made risky business moves, pulling equity out of the house, and when the market dipped, they got burned, hard. Why didn't you tell me any of this sooner? I asked gently. She sniffled. Because you wouldn't understand. You and Jake, you're solid. You live simply. You don't care about what people think. I've been trying so hard to keep up this image, to make everyone think we're doing amazing. Jake, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke. Amanda, maybe now's the time to stop worrying about appearances and start figuring out what actually matters. She looked down, ashamed. I know I was horrible to you. I made fun of you, of Jake's job. And now the only person who's shown up for me is you. I reached over and squeezed her hand. We all make mistakes. What matters is what you do next. Over the next few days, Amanda leaned on us more than I thought she ever would. Jake helped her patch a broken gate in the backyard and even looked at the garage door when it jammed. I helped her sort through bills, create a budget, and call creditors to negotiate payments. It was humbling, watching my once proud sister ask for help, but it was also humanizing. One evening, as Jake grilled burgers in our backyard and Amanda sipped lemonade beside me on the porch swing, she turned to me with a sad smile. You know what's funny? She said. I used to think I married up, like Patrick was this prize, and that you settled. I waited. But now I see it. You didn't settle. You chose right. You married someone who shows up, who builds things, who fixes what's broken. I chased the shiny life, and now I'm sitting in pieces. Jake called from the grill. Want cheese on yours, Amanda? She smiled, eyes misty. Yes, please. It was a small moment, but something shifted. Later that night, after she left, Jake and I sat under the string lights in our yard, listening to the crickets. Do you think she's really changing? I asked. He looked thoughtful. I think life finally made her stop and look in the mirror. Sometimes that's all it takes. I nodded slowly, grateful for what we had. Even if it wasn't flashy, even if it wasn't Instagram-worthy, it was real, it was steady, it was enough. And Amanda, for the first time in a long time, seemed to understand that too. But little did we know, the real test was still coming, and it would involve not just Amanda's pride, but our own boundaries. Just as Amanda was starting to rebuild her life, brick by honest brick, the past came knocking, loud and arrogant as ever. It started with a phone call. I was organizing files for a new photography client when Amanda's name flashed across my screen. I picked up immediately. "He's back," she whispered. "Patrick? He wants to meet. He says he's been thinking. He wants to talk things over." There was a long pause. "What do you want to do?" I asked cautiously. "I don't know," Amanda admitted. "Part of me wants to hear him out. The other part doesn't know if I should let him walk through that door." "Then don't let him in until you're sure," I said gently. "You've come too far to let history undo your healing." But Amanda, ever the optimist in disguise, decided to meet him anyway. They met at a quiet brunch cafe, the kind they used to frequent before their lives became wrapped in credit limits and designer appearances. She told me later that Patrick looked different, tired, deflated. His once perfectly styled hair was slightly messy, his shirt wrinkled at the collar. "He didn't come in a Mercedes," she said with a small, sad smile. "He came in an Uber." According to Amanda, Patrick didn't ask for forgiveness right away. Instead, he launched into a monologue about how everything wasn't his fault, how the market shifted, how his business partner had let him down, how she should have warned him about overspending. Amanda listened. She nodded, but she didn't cry. I asked him what he actually wanted, she told me over dinner later that evening. He said he wanted a fresh start. Together. Jake set down his fork. "Let me guess, he didn't mention going to therapy, getting a job, or paying off debt." Amanda laughed dryly. "Nope, just that we could move somewhere new and start over." "And you?" I asked, watching her carefully. I told him I'd think about it, but I already knew my answer. The next day, Amanda met with a divorce attorney. "It's not that I hate him," she explained. "It's that I can't trust him to change." Jake and I helped her list the house for sale. She was realistic about the losses and focused on cutting ties cleanly. It was messy, but manageable. A few weeks later, Amanda moved into a modest 2-bedroom apartment just 5 minutes from us. Her designer furniture didn't fit the space, so she sold most of it. I helped her decorate with pieces from thrift stores and secondhand finds. "It's not much," she said as we arranged books on a shelf, "but it's mine." Then came the family reunion. We hadn't seen our extended family in nearly 2 years. With all the drama that had unfolded, we debated whether to attend, but Amanda insisted. "I'm not hiding anymore," she said. "Let them see me for who I really am." Jake and I agreed to go. We packed a casserole, dressed in our Sunday best, and headed to Aunt Carol's ranch. The moment we stepped onto the patio, eyes turned toward us. Some smiled, others stared, and then Rachel, our cousin, the one who used to gush over Amanda's handbags and give me pitiful glances when I mentioned Jake's mechanic shop. "Olivia," she said with surprise, "you look great." And Amanda, "Wow, you look so different." Amanda smiled calmly. "It's been a year." "You're still out with Patrick?" Rachel asked, fishing. "Nope," Amanda said coolly. "Turns out I traded in luxury for peace of mind." Rachel blinked. "And how's Jake?" she asked, turning to me. "Still. Fixing cars?" Jake gave her a thumbs up. "Actually, we just signed a maintenance contract with the city's school district. We're expanding." "Oh," she said, clearly stunned. "Well, good for you." The rest of the afternoon was surprisingly smooth. Amanda held her head high. She laughed with the cousins she used to ignore. She helped serve food. She complimented the simple setup. At one point, I caught her gazing out across the field, hands in her pockets. "Penny for your thoughts?" I asked, handing her a soda. "I used to think success looked like a Mercedes, a mansion, and a man in a tailored suit," she said. "But now I think it looks like this, being able to breathe without pretending." I smiled. Then she added, "By the way, I've been working on something, a little project." "What kind of project?" "You'll see," she grinned. "It might involve helping women like me, women who spent too long chasing the wrong things." And just like that, the sister I thought I'd lost was slowly becoming someone even better. But the big reveal was still to come. 3 months after Amanda's divorce was finalized, her project started to take shape. She called it Reclaim, a nonprofit aimed at helping women rebuild their lives after financial and emotional ruin. It started as a Facebook group and quickly grew into a movement. Amanda used her own story, once soaked in shame, as a powerful testimony to remind others that no amount of money or social status could replace self-worth. I still remember the day she told me about her first speaking engagement. "Olivia," she said over lunch, her fingers nervously tapping her water glass, "they want me to speak at the Women in Recovery Summit downtown." I blinked. "Like, on stage?" She nodded, her eyes wide. "They said they loved my story, that more women need to hear it." "That's amazing," I said, grabbing her hand. "You'll be incredible." Amanda smiled, but I could see the fear just beneath her expression. She had lived so long in the shadows of image and perfection that stepping into the spotlight felt unnatural, almost terrifying. But she did it. She wore a simple navy blue dress and stood under the warm lights of the hotel ballroom, her voice trembling at first as she shared her truth. She spoke about marrying into success and losing herself, about mocking others to feel superior, and about the moment she stood barefoot in her own garage, realizing everything she thought she needed had fallen apart. The audience didn't judge her. They cried, they stood, they clapped. And from that night on, Amanda began to rise, not on a pedestal of wealth, but on a foundation of authenticity. A month later, Amanda received a surprising email. Subject: Speaker Invitation, Empower Her Conference, Austin, Texas. The event was one of the biggest women's leadership conferences in the country. She was invited not just to speak, but to sit on a panel with authors, CEOs, and life coaches. "I don't belong on that stage," Amanda whispered when she told me. "Yes, you do," I replied without hesitation, "because you've lived what most people are too scared to talk about." Jake, always our biggest cheerleader, added, "Besides, you've got the best pit crew in town if your car breaks down on the way." Amanda laughed, and so, she accepted. As the conference neared, Amanda became a name on social media. Clips from her summit talk were circulating, gathering thousands of views. Her words, "Sometimes you lose everything to find yourself," became a popular quote shared across platforms. Meanwhile, things with Patrick weren't going well. We didn't hear from him directly, but mutual friends mentioned he was in deep financial trouble. His medical license had been suspended due to unethical billing practices. He was being sued by the hospital for breach of contract. Amanda didn't gloat. She didn't post about it, but I knew it gave her closure, the kind that comes from realizing you no longer carry someone else's mess. The night before she left for Austin, Amanda invited me over. We sat on her cozy couch drinking tea, surrounded by handmade decor and thrifted charm. "You know," she said softly, "I used to laugh at Jake, not because of him, but because he reminded me of everything I was afraid to be." "Simple?" I offered. She nodded. "Grounded, real, honest. I wasn't ready for that kind of truth. But now, I wouldn't trade it for the world." Then she smiled. "I want to tell that story tomorrow, the part about Jake, about you." I squeezed her hand. "Tell it, all of it, even the messy parts. That's what makes it powerful." The next day, Amanda stood on stage at the Empower Her conference, her story broadcast live to over 10,000 viewers. She spoke clearly, proudly, starting with a memory most would find humiliating: the night she mocked her brother-in-law for being a mechanic, and how life humbled her soon after. She talked about the eviction, the ruined credit score, the designer clothes she sold just to pay her car insurance. She talked about being handed a coffee in our kitchen one morning and realizing it tasted better than the champagne she used to sip in silence. But most of all, she talked about redemption, about choosing purpose over pretense, about being loved for who you are, not what you drive. When she finished, the room erupted. Standing ovation, tears, applause, and as I watched from the side of the stage, Jake's hand in mine, I couldn't help but smile, because Amanda, the same sister who once sneered at my life, was now showing the world what real success looked like. And the final chapter of her transformation? Well, that was just about to begin. 2 weeks after Amanda's viral speech at the Empower Her conference, her inbox was overflowing. Media outlets wanted interviews, nonprofits wanted partnerships. Even publishing houses had reached out, asking if she had considered turning her story into a memoir. But the most unexpected message came in the form of a handwritten letter, the return address. St. Anne's Hospital. Inside was a brief note, written in neat cursive on hospital stationery. Dear Amanda, I watched your speech at the conference. I couldn't sleep afterward. Your words hit me harder than I expected. I've made many mistakes, especially with you. If you're open to it, I'd like to meet. Coffee, on me this time. Amanda held the letter in her hand for a long time. She didn't say anything when she showed it to me, just passed it across the kitchen counter with raised eyebrows. I read it, then looked up at her. What do you think? I asked. She exhaled deeply, setting her mug down. I don't know. Part of me wants to rip it up. The other part, I guess I'm just curious. Jake, always the peacemaker, offered his take. Closure doesn't mean letting someone back in. Sometimes it just means giving yourself the peace to move on. So she agreed. One coffee, one conversation, no expectations. They met at a quiet corner cafe, the same one Patrick used to pass without a glance when they were married. Amanda chose a window seat. Patrick arrived 10 minutes late, a shadow of the polished man he once was. His suit was slightly wrinkled, his eyes tired. He looked older, not just in age, but in weight, like life had finally caught up to him. Thanks for coming, he said, voice low. Amanda nodded. Let's get one thing straight. I'm not here for apologies. I'm here for clarity. Patrick swallowed. Fair enough. Over 2 lattes, he confessed everything. The financial collapse, the disciplinary board hearing, how he'd lost nearly all his assets in legal fees, and how no hospital would hire him without a long rehabilitation process. Then he looked up. I saw your talk. You were phenomenal, honest, brave. Amanda didn't blink. And I realized how wrong I was. About you, about your family, about everything I thought made someone successful. A long silence passed between them. Amanda stirred her coffee slowly. Do you know what I remember most about you? She asked finally. Patrick shook his head. The way you used to laugh when Jake would come over to fix the sink. You'd say, he's a mechanic, not a plumber. Tell him to clean the garage, not your pipes. Patrick winced. Yeah. I remember. She leaned in slightly. Do you know who helped me fix my car after you left? Who helped me move out of our condo when the bank came knocking? Jake, the same man you looked down on. Patrick lowered his eyes. Amanda sat back, her voice steady. You don't have to keep chasing status, Patrick. It won't save you. It certainly didn't save us. He nodded. I'm starting to understand that. When they parted ways, Amanda didn't promise to keep in touch. She simply stood, shook his hand, and said, Take care of yourself. It was the most compassion she could offer, and the cleanest ending she could write. 6 months later, Amanda's nonprofit, Reclaim, had secured funding from a national foundation. She hired a small staff, launched a mentorship program, and started working with shelters across the Midwest. But the biggest surprise came during a meeting with a local auto company. They had seen her video online and wanted to collaborate, funding job training for women re-entering the workforce, especially in skilled trades. And they wanted Jake and his shop to be the training partner. When Amanda told Jake the news, he laughed, shaking his head. I went from being the butt of your jokes to your business partner. That's got to be a record. She grinned. Full circle, right? No, Jake said, wrapping an arm around me. Better than full circle. This is the kind of story no one expects to end well. But it had. 1 year to the day after Amanda moved into her small rental, she threw a backyard BBQ, nothing fancy. Paper plates, grilled corn, a cooler full of sodas. But this time, the laughter was real. The smiles were unfiltered. The guest list wasn't about appearances. It was about heart. Amanda stood up, holding her drink. I just want to say something, she began. Everyone quieted. When I joked about Jake's job, when I looked down on Olivia's choices, it wasn't because I thought I was better. It was because I was scared I wasn't enough. I wore arrogance like armor, and when life stripped that away, I was terrified. She looked around the circle of friends, volunteers, and community leaders. But now, I've never been more grateful to have lost everything because it helped me finally become someone I actually like. Everyone raised their cups to Amanda, to growth, to humility, and to the quiet strength of those we once underestimated.